Hey guys, so in today's video I'm going to talk about the fourth step to the 7 steps to financial freedom by Tony Robbins' book, Money Master the Game. And today we're going to talk about the most important topic that I've been raving about in my previous videos, and that's asset allocation, right? That is the most important topic from all, the most important step from all the 7 steps. Why? Because this is where you can create certainty out of chaos, certainty out of this chaotic investment environment. And that's what you're trying to do with your investments. You're trying to make sure that the money you're putting in the market is not just going to go away, are you going to lose your money, so on and so forth. So this is where it turns from a random stock picking game to a more certain money making game, right? So we're going to talk about different points in this video. I can't cover everything in the book because that chapter is very intensive in terms of different types of investments, different asset allocations. Is very detailed, and you have to read the whole thing in order to fully understand what I'm going to share with you here, and also get a sneak peek on David Swanson's personal portfolio, which is a guy who made $23 billion from $1 billion investment in 10 years' time, getting an average of 13% annually for, I think, Yale University. And he shares his personal portfolio, which I will share with you in the description below, because I can't really fit it in the video, but I will share it down below for you to actually check out, right? So let's get into it. So first one is diversify or die, and that's the number one rule of all the big investors. Warren Buffett says it. He says diversify your portfolio. No, he doesn't actually say diversify. He says be fearful when everyone's greedy, and be greedy when everyone is fearful. And he also says diversify your portfolio. It's very important to diversify your portfolio. Why? Because you are always wrong. And the big 0.001 investors in the world, they admit that they're always wrong. No matter how good they are, no matter how consistently they've been beating the market, they always have that in the back of their head that they're always wrong. So they don't get ahead of themselves. They don't let their ego take place and take all their money and invest it in one bucket or in one asset or in one stock and think this stock is going to stay good for the rest of its life, because there is no such thing. Some stocks are going to go down. Eventually, these stocks are going to go down at one point in their lifetime. Eventually, that bond is going to go down. Eventually, there is not the history. If you go back in history and assess all these stocks, bond, different investments, there isn't one investment that survived 30, 40, 50 years throughout the whole market. So you have to always diversify your portfolio to make sure that you don't put all your chips into one basket. Or if you're playing a game, for example, roulette, you're not putting all your chips into one number and hoping you're going to hit that number and make a huge return. So you're looking to diversify your portfolio, reduce the risk, while also keeping a good hefty return on your investment. So diversify across asset classes, markets, and time. Right? So asset classes, that means you diversify along stocks. There's bonds. There's real estates. What else there? Well, these are the 3 that came to my mind. There's more that he describes in his book. But basically, you want to diversify not only in specific stocks or specific bonds, but you want to diversify. Put like maybe 10% in commodities, 20% in stocks, 30% in bonds, 10% in EFTs. I forgot what it stands for. Something to do with bonds. I think it's a type of bond. Some in annuities, some in commodities. So you want to diversify across different assets, because, as I said, not all markets are stable. So you have different assets, different markets, and even within each class, let's say different bonds. There's, for example, you're putting 20% in bonds. Well, there isn't like one type of bond. There's different types of bonds. There's like they call the junk bonds, which give you high interest but a higher risk of return. There's the more safer bonds that like investing in the Treasury, the U.S. Treasury. It's more safe, more firm, but lower returns. So even when you diversify in the specific classes, you want to diversify within the markets within each class, within the types of different asset classes within each class, basically, right? And you also got to diversify over time. So that's a very important aspect in investing, and that's what truly differentiates the top 0.001 investors like the Warren Buffetts and the Ray Dalios from the average investor, is that they're able to master their emotion. They're able to control their emotion and control that impulse to just follow their emotion, whatever to follow their emotion depending on the market fluctuation, right? The problem is when it comes to investment is that sometimes the investments are doing very well, and you think that these investments are going to do well for the rest of their life, and they're going to stay growing for the next 5 to 6 years. And this bias I've covered back in Thinking Fast and Slow, and it's actually one of the main biases of the human being, is that we tend to see things as they are. We are very bad at predicting the future, especially when it comes to probabilities and statistics. We are just really bad. We think that the present is what's gonna be the future, and that's not reality. It's not how the world works. But we kind of create that certainty that the present moment, if things are going well right now, they're gonna be well for the next 10 years, and that's why big construction projects, they underestimate budgets and underestimate time, because they don't take into factor all these obstacles they're going to have in the future. They think, well, if it's going great right now, it's going to be great for the rest of their life, and it's not going to be like that. And that's when it comes to time. Diversifying course in time is that you have to rebalance your portfolio. That's very important, and very few people are able to sort of master their emotion and get into rebalancing their portfolio instead of just leaving it as it is. So what is rebalancing your portfolio is, for example, when you have, let's say, 60% in stocks, 40% in bonds, and now your stocks are doing very well this year. Now the stocks basket has grown 70% and the bonds are 30%. What you need to do is you have to sell some of that 70% in stocks and buy bonds. Now, why is that hard to do? Because the stocks are hot and the stocks are increasing. And why the hell would you sell these stocks if they're already making you a lot of money and they're growing with time? And that's the hard part, is that you have to realize that these stocks are not gonna keep on growing in the next month or 2 months or maybe a year. It might grow for another 2 months, 3 months, but you don't know what's gonna happen in a year from now. They might drop down. There's a good chance they're gonna drop down. That's why you have to basically stick to your, be self-disciplined, stick to your portfolio and not mess with it, even if you think the market is gonna go up, even if you think that the market is, the stocks are very hot right now and, you're gonna double your money or any of that. It doesn't matter, because in the long term, you're gonna be more successful. You're gonna make more money than losing money. Why? Where if you play with your portfolio constantly according to the market and just be very reactive to the market, what's gonna happen is that with time you're gonna lose money. You might win in a very short period of time, but with time, in a long period, on the long term, you are gonna lose more money than if you stick to your self-disciplined portfolio balancing. And the third one we're gonna talk about is security and risk growth bucket. So he talks about that. Tony Robbins talks about how you allocate your assets, how you allocate your money, your investments, whatever your investment funds, and you should allocate it in 2 different buckets. And he called it a security bucket and a risk growth bucket. Security bucket, you're going to invest in boring investments. These are investments that will not make you great returns, small returns where you're 5%, 6%, even less. But that money is secure. There is a really, really low risk that you're going to lose your money, and a really high reward, not high reward, but a very low reward, but then you're getting a very low risk on your downside. So this is kind of the bucket that you want to put there in case you lose all your money in the risk growth bucket. You still have money in your security bucket to sustain you and keep growing that investment fund. And then the second one, which I like, is the risk growth bucket, and that's the more fun part. That's when you invest in things that will give you great returns, but comes with it greater risks, right? And it depends. With the security risk growth bucket, it depends, the percentages on where you should put your investments depends on your age, depends on your risk tolerance, depends on, if you like to be more certain about your future and you want to know that, your money is going to grow and you're not going to lose anything. If you're more of an emotional person, you can't really control your emotion, and you want to go more with security, you're going to put more money in security than risk growth. If you can't sleep at night thinking that your investment is going to lose, then go with the security one, because Tony Robbins says in the end, it's financial freedom, which means that you don't have to worry about money. So if you're constantly worrying about your money, worrying about your investments, then that's all counterintuitive. You're just being stressed for the rest of your life, thinking your investment's going to lose. So if you don't have that strong muscle, emotional muscle, then I would recommend putting more money into security. For me personally, I would go 35% and 65%. That's the kind of risk tolerance, or how much I can deal with when it comes to security and risk growth. David Swanson's portfolio actually is about 30% security and 70% risk growth bucket, which you might think is actually quite risky. But his portfolio, actually, if you read that chapter, his portfolio actually makes a lot of sense in terms that he's protecting his security or downside very well. So even if he loses a lot of his risk growth, the money is still going in a security bucket. And for old people, if you're like at age of 50, 55, getting close to retirement, it doesn't make sense for you to go with risk growth, because if you lose all your money, you reach retirement, what are you going to do? You're going to work for another 20 years. So if you're older, then obviously You want to go with more security. If you're younger, you can experiment with different things. You can afford losing money, so you want to go with risk and growth bucket, right? As I said, mine would be 35%, 65%, and it just depends on your risk tolerance. And one more thing that Tony Robbins talks about here, and I think it's true as well, is that people think they're really have high tolerance to risk. They think they can master their emotions and all that. And you know, it's you know, saying it is one thing and doing it is another. You know, once you start losing money, once you really lose money, that's when it shows if you can actually, you know, sustain your state, sustain your way investment, and not play around with your portfolio. That's what matters. It's actually the real world. It's not what you think, because we are naturally loss averse. I mean, as I said in my not last video, one of the videos I reviewed, Thinking Fast and Slow, is that people feel more emotional pain when they lose than when they win. So if you win $100, let's say you will feel 1x emotion, positive emotion, and if you lose $100, you will feel minus 2x. So there's more pain. There's this disproportional ratio of pain to pleasure when it comes to lose versus win, right? So people feel more pain when they lose than happiness when they win, right? So you have to really assess your risk tolerance, not just think you're really good at it, or you're really good at handling risk, but actually doing it in the real world and seeing how you react to it. And in the end, it's a muscle you can also work with time and strengthen with time, right? And the last one we have is David Swanson personal portfolio. So I talked about that. And Tony Robbins interviewed David Swanson, which is basically, I think he's the principal investor in Yale's University. I don't know what he does exactly, but he invests the money for Yale's university to grow and become more, so they can invest it more in the research department or in the university itself. And he grown, I think, a $1 billion investment to $23 billion in 1 decade, in 10 years. And he averaged about 13% increased return on their investment every year, which is a great number, right? And he shares his personal portfolio that he used. I'm not sure if he used exactly that portfolio, but I think he used that portfolio for a long period of time, and that's, he contributes most of his success to that portfolio. And if you wanna check out that portfolio, which includes the asset classes that he used in the security and risk growth bucket. So he had 2 buckets. 30% in security, 70% in risk growth, and he had 2 asset classes in here, and he had 4 asset classes in here. I'll read it for you actually quite fast, give you a sneak peek, and then you can read it in the description below. You can read the book to get to know it. So he goes domestic stocks. He puts 20% in domestic stocks. International stocks, he put 20% there. Emerging stock markets, he put 10%. Real estate investment trust, he put 20%. And this is the risk growth bucket. And his security bucket, you have 2 asset classes, so long-term US Treasuries, he puts 15% in that, and TIPS, Treasury Inflation Protected Securities, he puts 15% in that, and that's basically his portfolio, right? So that's the weights that he has assigned for each of these classes, and that's what diversified portfolio means. That you put money in different asset class, and yeah, that's basically it. So this is the 4th step. It's really important. If you want to learn more about this and learn more about the specific asset classes within each of these buckets. There's 8 in each one of them, and these are like the stocks, the US, the bonds, the different types of bonds, different types of stocks. Real estate investment, there's different types of real estate investments. Some come with different terms, and so on and so forth. So you really have to read the chapter and get to know it better. And I think in his next chapter, he's going to talk about a great strategy that the 0.01 investors do as well. Is the upside without the downside. I've talked about this before, and it's creating a lifetime income plan. So this is where he talks about investments that are only open for the extra wealthy, but I think through his companies, Tony Robbins managed to actually bring these investments to the average person, average investor. And these investments, basically what they are is you invest your money, you get 100% protection on your downside, so if the market goes down, you get your money back. If the market goes up, you make a win. You get return on your money. Now that return is not 100%, so if the market goes up by 10%, you're not going to get all the 10%, but you participate in the gains. So maybe you get 8% or 7%. And the reason why you're getting less than what the market is increasing by is because you are getting 100% principal protection on your downside. So you're not losing any money, but you're winning when the market goes up. So that's like basically not reducing risk, that's eliminating the risk from the equation, right? So stay tuned for the next chapter. I'm going to go through it and give you all these amazing tips. And yeah, so next chapter, next video, we're going to talk about the fifth step. And stay tuned for it. Subscribe to this channel, like this video, share it with your friends. If you find it helpful, comment below your reflections, experiences, whatever it is. Ask any questions if you have any, and I'll see you in the next video of this series. Cheers.